Like many human individuals around the internet, one of my favorite games from last year was Death's Door, a very pleasant surprise from the two-man team at Acid Nerve. Two-man team? Really? Just two? My god. An incredibly well-designed and written game that didn't overstay its welcome. I devoured Death's Door in about a week of play, enjoying almost every second of my time with it. While normally I would be tempted to find some overarching theme to discuss that would let me examine the game from many angles and degrees of depth, or go on and on about how in spite of its many obvious influences, it felt to me like it has the most clear resonance with the early Zelda game Link's Awakening, or how the music fits the game like a glove, I'm going to resist my urge to default to sesquipedalian loquaciousness and focus only on my favorite side character from the game and how he serves as a microcosm of the greater structure, the very definitely mammalian human being and cook, Jefferson. You meet Jefferson, a member of the species Homo sapiens, about 2/3 of your way through Death's Door. By this point, a player will have experienced most of the environments the game has to offer, and many will have done some extra exploration to have unlocked a few health and magic upgrades, as well as several extra weapons and abilities that have let them uncover some secrets and hidden bits of lore. This hypothetical player will also likely have a burgeoning sense of mastery of the game's simple yet deceptively deep combat, and several defeated bosses behind them. Perhaps even more importantly, this theoretical gamer will have experienced the game's writing, characters, and world design, and is very likely, like myself, in love with the humor and pathos on display in this seemingly faded world. So, here we are at the base of a mighty mountain, heading towards the last major soul our intrepid Crow Reaper is attempting to collect, and we stumble onto a base camp of sorts, with the greatest collection of characters we've come across since we've left the main office of Reaper HQ, where our adventure began. There's our bosom companion Pothead, a clever grunt, if you felt the generosity to free him back in the Mushroom Dungeon, and a crow wearing what appears to be a raincoat and drunk out of his mind. Why a species that has waterproof feathers would feel the need to wear a raincoat, especially in a climate that seems that the majority of precipitation will be in the form of snow, is beyond me, but I continue to digress. Here, inside a beached boat, in a restaurant called The Stranded Sailor, you'll find the master chef who is very insistent about the fact that he possesses two opposable thumbs, Jefferson. Jefferson is my favorite bit of humor in the game. There have been plenty of other moments of comedy and sight gags so far, but Jefferson's design is so obviously ludicrous that I couldn't help but smile. His animation as he maneuvers about is stellar. In particular, the sound effect of him thrashing around as he manipulates his limbs is very satisfying, to the point where my brain assigned it the technical term frobble. This one concentrated point of design distills everything that I find delightful about Death's Door's character and world design into one pure facet of expression. In addition to being extremely silly and extremely human, Jefferson serves as a well-placed anchor for a player entering the late-game sections of Death's Door. While feeding you delicious soup that refills your health, Jefferson will also give you hints about various secrets in other parts of the world that you've missed, serving as a guide for players who are working towards increasing their power and/or working towards 100% completion. The fact that he limits himself to 3 hints at a time is a smart choice too, as a player will have several secrets to run off and look for, but not so many that they might feel overwhelmed. The hints themselves are an excellent distillation of the design philosophy behind the game. Each hint does a good job of sending you to a specific area to hunt for said secrets, but are vague enough to let each player puzzle out exactly what it is they need to be looking for. This tightrope walk between hand-holding and opacity is handled with surety and grace, a tightrope that Jefferson would no doubt have an easy time traversing with his completely human feet that have toes and not suckers. Jefferson's mammalian magnificence extends even beyond the scope of the base game. If you choose to return to the world of Death's Door after defeating the main boss of the game, Jefferson will still be there to serve out soup and hints with his very existing mammalian fingers. However, if you discover the secret to changing the time of day, and the way each part of the map changes to accommodate this shift is one of my favorite subtle bits of world design, you'll discover Jefferson's terrible secret. His humanity has been slightly exaggerated. I, for one, was shocked to my core by this startling and out-of-nowhere revelation. This revelation, on the other hand, allows the player the joy of having Jefferson actually accompany them for a time on their post-game quest. There are 3 really smart design choices made here. The first is that having Jefferson accompany you locks you out, of using the typical door transport system that has been the primary mode of moving quickly around the map so far. This means that you must transport Jefferson across most of the world, which reinforces the sense of connection that each part of the game has, one that has likely worn away slightly for a player who's gotten this far, especially if they've been making good use of the door transport system to rapidly move around the various areas hunting down secrets. The second is that the frobble sound, again a highly technical term of his that I'm so fond of, replaces the sound of your regular dodge, meaning that you can hear it as many times as you wish, and possibly even more than that by the end. Finally, even though transporting Jefferson's "are you sure he's not actually human" body means no fast travel, he makes up for this potential disappointment by throwing out the occasional comment on the parts of the map that you travel through, and the enemies that you encounter. He also continues his pattern of hint-giving when you reach the area that he had requested you deliver him to, and puts the cherry on top by sprinkling in some more hints to the lore and history of Death's Door's world. His task done, Jefferson swims away with a very human swimming style. But a player who has experienced the high of having this most excellent of non-cephalopodian traveling companions can take comfort in the fact that you can always head back to Jefferson's kitchen at the Stranded Sailor and carry him with you again whenever you feel the need for more bipedal, bimanual companionship. What all this boils down to is that Jefferson, to me, represents the perfect microcosm of Death's Door. Clever, well-designed, sharply and obviously funny, and rewarding to those who are willing to poke around in its corners and seek out all that it has to offer. I think that this game would be completely satisfying to someone who just takes the time to play through the main campaign without taking any detours. The game would be an incredibly engaging experience even to those who just skip across the surface. Like Jefferson, however, those who are willing to look past the very obviously human surface will find even more to recommend itself. Thus, Jefferson, the Human Chef, is easy to put forward as one of my favorite parts of one of my favorite games that I've played in the past human year.